before us. We have a motion that we accept them and excuse. David moved. All in favor? Any opposition? Very good. Approval of minutes, the April 6 minutes were in the packet. Have a motion that we accept the minutes. Okay, Aaron, you ready? All in favor? Any opposition? Very good. Public comment? Any interest or signed up?
We have one, resident will be here, public comment, coming during the presentation.
Okay, that's okay. So, okay.
So, not yet, not yet. Oh, he's there.
I had no
Oh, perfect.
or anything, I just wanted to hear what's being discussed, because there's nothing to comment on, I haven't seen any draft or.
So we go free, so we can presentation.
Okay. So on the planning commission, SMAC liaison, I think.
Very short this week. Big thing was on April 18th is the council officially adopted the new model ordinance, UDO changes, which is what we had talked about back in January and then the January before that in 2022 as well. And so, but that was officially adopted. They do want to talk in one of their committees probably in June about the cost of stormwater compliance as it relates to affordable housing. So they were worried, there was questions I could tell about that. And really, in some of the case studies that my staff's done, the treatment doesn't really cost anymore. It's just a different way they're allocating it with the the new loading method and pretty much the use of the buy down. So, but we're prepping to go through some case studies and with like the council, and then specifically speak to affordable housing. Rumor has it that they're expanding that to other development regulations, not just stormwater, but I don't know if that'll go anywhere, like a broad waiving of regulations for affordable housing or something like that. It's just something the council wanted to get some more information about. The May 2nd meeting, which was this past Tuesday, a couple of legacy cases that we had were talked about, and no real big stormwater issues on anything. It's just we had talked about the first one. The case at Z5422 at East and West Street doesn't really have a stormwater component, but it ties into a potential future parks project that Stormwater is investing in, which is the Stony Hollow Park right there. And that was actually denied at the council table on Tuesday night. And then the multiple properties one is the Shaw University case that's being complained about. Is to regulate their stormwater to the year condition because they have downstream flooding. Like the Rocky Ranch side does not have. Ridgeline kind of splits Shaw's campus. Just a little piece of my slideshow for the council about the text change for the ordinance changes. This was the one at Peace and West Street, which we hadn't talked about before. I just put it up here because it does like relate to this park area, because this is all, this whole floodplain area is all city owned. And we used to have a lot of our operations and vehicle things that are out here now, it used to be out there. So luckily that's not out there anymore, but long term, we're got a park project here and work on a long-term stream restoration as well as a pigeon house. So the developer was pursuing this rezoning and also working through an agreement with park staff to kind of work in concert for that park. We're not sure where that stands as far as our agreement, but I think the park is still moving forward. We don't know what the developer contribution with that was going with this rezoning being done. So that's why I brought that up, and I haven't in the past because it really hasn't been a big stormwater issue. This was the one on north of Maywood Avenue and kind of up like Wheeler and Saunders. A lot of people are calling this the Baker property, like rezoning, because there's a lot of Baker roofing property like in here that's being rezoned. So this did finally get approved. They changed their conditions to mimic the approved Dick's Edge study. That was, the big concern with the neighbors and a few of the councilors on that was, road designations through there were a little too intense. They didn't like that kind of density being through a residential neighborhood. But that was approved, and they do have a stormwater condition to use, green infrastructure once they do develop some of these parcels, so. And then the Shaw University case, which like I say, their main stormwater issue is just this kind of flooding down here. It's that, this side of the site is hitting, so. But that was deferred until, the June 20th council meeting, where they will continue discussions on that. Any questions?
Thank you, Ted. Welcome, Scott, who always attends these meetings, but now is in a different chair, because Wayne is not here. So going to give us team updates.
Good afternoon, Commission. It's a pleasure to be here in support of Wayne and Stormwater staff team. I do have some exciting updates. First of all, Allison Bryan is new to our group. I want to say hello to Allison. Allison is in a brand new position. This is the very first position, what's going to become our local floodplain management group working with Ben. Allison, so glad to have you here. She started Monday, April 17th, just a few weeks ago. Allison has secure experience in modeling floodplains, including one-dimensional and two-dimensional river modeling. And that's very exciting. Also experience in map revisions for FEMA, managed the floodplain program for the country, state of North Carolina. Hydrology and hydraulic studies for multiple government agencies. Flood mitigation plans for resiliency efforts, which is certainly one of our key themes in stormwater in the city of Raleigh, even more resilient. Allison previously worked in the Water Resources Group at Moffitt and Nickel. She has a bachelor's degree from North Carolina State University in environmental engineering and is a registered professional engineer. So again, it's a brand new group, brand new position, and welcome. Also, we have some more good news. We would like, please join me welcoming back to the stormwater staff, Neil Harrison. I think Neil is here. Neil, thank you for coming. Neil is back after maybe about a 4-year hiatus, thereabouts. So we're excited to have him back. He's returned to business services. He's part of our business and financial team as a senior engineering specialist for our utility feed team. So a lot of great work on the utility feed team there. Neil returns to the city with nearly 15 years of experience in public utilities, planning, and stormwater. And he was played a vital role in the original EarGov testing, which is the system that we use to manage parcels and accounts, and so helpful with that. Essentially, that's the foundation, one of the foundations for our purpose application for all of the nearly 400,000 single-family equivalent units that we have around the city of Raleigh. Neil has vast knowledge of utility account management, permit, impervious surface review, annexation petitions, customer service, etc. Neil also is a graduate of NC State University with a bachelor's degree in English. Please help me invite Neil anytime that you'd like to do that. Since 2019, this you all find this very interesting. He's combined his writing skills as a blogger for the Premier League soccer team, Newcastle United. So very exciting background. Neil, welcome again. Welcome back. Those are our two staff members. I invite Kevin forward. Special presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm standing in for Wayne Miles, our stormwater program manager. And this is in recognition of Mark Senior. His served now 6 years commission, and this will be his last meeting. So I have prepared words from Wayne that I'll read. Mark, thank you for your unwavering dedication to the city of Raleigh and our stormwater program. This occasion marks the end of your 6-year term on the Stormwater Management Advisory Commission, where your input, guidance, insights, and institutional knowledge have been invaluable in setting our program direction, goals, and funding priorities. However, these past 6 years have just been the encore for your long and dedicated 30-year career serving the city. Wayne remembers when he first met you in 1990. You were the project manager for the city's first drainage basin study, which was the Sycamore Creek watershed, and Wayne was a stormwater modeling engineer for the consulting firm. Those were pioneering days for the program. We modeled impacts of new development on Raleigh's waterways in terms of flooding, erosion, and water quality, a first for the city and uncommon for the times. That work set the stage for identifying and prioritizing needs for capital improvement projects coming from another 20 or so watershed studies. It was shortly after that, in the early 90s, when you convinced Wayne that racing his brand new Toyota Celica at the autocross would be a good idea. And it was. Wayne Wayne had a great time, and he didn't even roll it over. Yeah. In 1996, you helped negotiate the city's first NPDES and MS4 permit, another critical point in forming our stormwater program. You led our development of all MS4 permit compliance programs. In 2003, you helped form the city's stormwater utility, setting the stage for a dedicated revenue stream that's helped the city's stormwater program grow into what it is today. Over these 30 years, plus 6, you've served in a range of roles: engineer, project manager, water quality manager, stormwater program manager, and commissioner. And you've set a high bar for how each role can serve our community. Your contribution to the city's stormwater program, to the public safety, and to protecting our waterways have been immeasurable. Thank you for all you have done for our program. Thank you for your thoughtful guidance, and thank you for being a good friend. You will be missed, and your legacy in developing our program will help guide city stormwater professionals for years to come. Congratulations, Mark. A token of Wayne's appreciation, that city staff and commission. We want tokens of appreciation after the commission meeting, which I'll address after.
What's your real post? Just some quick words. I want to thank everybody. It's been a pleasure working with this group. I think it's a great group of individuals that have sitting the important stuff behind the scenes. So I think it's time to get off because I thought I was on there for like 4 years, it's like 6 years. I hope to keep coming back. I won't be serving on the board, but I hope to attend some of the meetings and keep sharing my ancient history with everybody because it's always fun to learn the old times. But it's been a pleasure working with this group and serving the city, and hope you all as much fun as I do.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your service and guided counsel. Yeah, high priority topics.
We do have some exciting high priority topics, and congratulations again, Mark, on the pleasure of working here. Very fortunate we got to work together.
Thanks also to all the staff. All people I work with, having a work week.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, we've got some exciting topics. Very exciting, very recent, on April 21st, Walnut Creek Watershed has been designated the 21st Urban Water Federal Partnership. So very, very exciting. There's a lot of announcements around that, activities around that out on the Creek. So that is super exciting. Within your agenda package, you'll see just a few links we placed in there with some more information about that. But look for much more to come. That is very, very exciting for Walnut Creek and really for the entire city of Raleigh. So very excited to announce that. Next week, speaking of our floodplain program that is getting off and going here in a very robust way, a premier floodplain management conference is coming right here to Raleigh. So the ASFBM, the Association of State Floodplain Managers Conference, is here in Raleigh next week. We'll have strong stormwater participation. We're helping to lead a field tour around Crabtree, Walnut Creeks. We're going to demonstrate our active flood control system for Lake Johnson, which protects downstream Walnut Creek. We're very excited about that. We've built a coder, display will be highlighted with Crabtree Creek as well. So Ben and Kelly and myself will be helping to facilitate that. So look for a lot of floodplain folks walking around downtown Raleigh. If they're in downtown Raleigh, they're on high ground, they're well above floodplain generally, but we're excited to have the floodplain professionals coming here to Raleigh. There will be a city council meeting, many of you are aware, it's very much everyone to join on May 19th. We're going to meet with some of the newer city council members in this facility for about 4 hours to talk about our strategic themes, and do a tour of our maintenance equipment facilities where there's so much staff there. So we're very excited about that, chance to engage with council and also hear from them. Things that they want to share with us. So that's coming up on May 19th. Our very own Dominic Smalls and Chaz Webb, Chaz is here to be presenting a webinar to the Southeast Stormwater Association on May 25th. So you can check that out online. If you'd like more information, contact us and we can put you in more contact with them. That's very exciting. Also, a very premier stormwater organization discussed our new stream stabilization program as well as our buffer building program. So we're excited about what we're doing for Raleigh. It is of interest well beyond Raleigh. So we're glad to share that with the industry. A few more items here. We continue to pursue grants that support stormwater projects. And so we have the Golden Leaf Foundation. We expect our Kingsborough Estates project to be considered May 31st or June 1st. So next would be their June board meeting. So we look forward to bringing back some news on that one very soon. Okay.
You've been on the 21st, the Urban Waters Partnership, which just truly celebratory. I know Samantha was there, as well as others, and I was honored to serve as MC for that event. Jazz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, so Chaz Webb, Drainage Systems and Stream Stabilization. Nice to see everybody again. So we have, I have two presentations. The first will be about the Drainage Systems program. So overview, we'll talk about the drainage systems and stormwater programs and look at the pending projects. We'll then look at project requests, funding overview, and then recommendations and questions. I know we're all familiar with this, but I always like to talk about our core mission, which the drainage systems program always looks to strive and implement, and that is to protect life, support healthy natural resources, complement sustainable growth within the Raleigh community. So in order to qualify for the drainage systems program, you must own property in Raleigh city limits, have stormwater runoff from public property or street or right of way. Be willing to donate a drainage easement. We do not cover nuisance flooding or lot-to-lot drainage. We have $1.25 million in annual funding that is allotted. Now, that doesn't always mean that that funding will be spent for this fiscal year. It's often spent in future fiscal years. With that, we fund about 8 projects per year, and funding is based on the ranking and prioritization model. You see, we have the model here. This is just the first one. Actually in the model, so it's a very popular program. The first two that are on the model here are Foxtrot and Guard Hill, and then you'll see if you looked at your packets that we have Midland Homes, Townhomes, and Meredith Drive, which are excuse me, Bells Valley, which are the stream erosion projects that we'll talk about in the next presentation. So we have 2 projects now here in the southeast portion of Raleigh, Foxtrot and Guard Hill. We'll talk about Foxtrot Road. So just to give you a little bit of orientation here, green line is sewer, red line is stormwater with the catch basins. This shaded blue is flood hazard soils. And yeah, this is a stream. So on this property, we have a sinkhole that runs about the length of the property line between the 2 properties. And it's about 140 feet in length. This is an older subdivision, recorded in 1970, the homes built in 1974. Drainage basin is 37 acres. So it does, we do see quite a bit of public contribution, which, as I said, is a requirement for this program. So it's hard to tell, I went out to try and see if I could get some even better pictures on this, but I couldn't. But there's sinkholes right in this region right here, so it's about 3 feet from the sheds and about 20 feet or so from the buildings. And there's a pipe that runs, it's a very short stick of pipe. You can see it's actually eroded out, but the sinkholes, we are threading the structure, looks at the video. Don't think we can line it. Again, this is looking upstream. This is where the pipe kind of turns a little bit. So what we want to do is replace the 140 linear foot of concrete pipe with 42-inch RCP. Provides some outlet protection. We like to do open ditch if we can, but given the proximities to the buildings, I don't think we could do an open ditch. Perhaps we could do open ditch as we tail off to the northeast a little bit. I did run some preliminary hydraulic calculations. It appears from my estimates that it can pass the 10-year storm, but we would want to do some further hydraulic calculations with the consulting engineer. Just to make sure that there's no hydraulic concerns. As pointed out, this is a flood hazard soil area. And we would replace the micro pipe. One of the things that we like to do now is compare scoring. So the prioritization model, if you're not familiar with the model, has about 50 different scoring topics. And within those 50 scoring topics or criteria, to come up with these major categories. And we try and be as consistent as we can. We're not always perfect, but Verdugo was one that got taken to SMAC in February. And you can see the scoring very similar. Public health and safety, which was a major driver, about the same score. And then as we move down the list, you see indirect community benefits, community support, and complexity, it's the same. So I feel fairly certain, pretty good, that the scoring was accurate. And then we look at the cost. Excuse me. We have various costs. So for what we've been doing is looking at the cost from Western Northridge project and coming up with estimates based off different contract values, and then assuming, a set percent for engineering and contingency. So with that, we would assume 123,000. Now these costs are estimates. They will often change, but there's funding available. Like if this were to go by a factor of 2, you would still have funding available. So with that, I'll stop for questions, comments, recommendations.
Question from Chaz. We'll vote on the, actually all 4 individually.
What's causing the sinkholes on this one? Just bad joints in the pipe?
It's old subdivision. It's all set joints. Look at the video.
Any more questions? I just want to point something out. You might go into the map, which is one of your earlier slides. Keep going up. The map, the Raleigh map. I'm sorry. Just keep going. This one right here. This is just significant because it just shows how the belt line is really the dividing line. You can see a number of projects done north of that. And this will make one of the few projects done in southeast or south of that line. We also know that line also is a racial and socioeconomic line. So I just wanted to point that out, that we can see on this map how historically attention has not been given, at least with training assistance projects, to this side of Raleigh. Just want to point that out. Thank you. Any questions on the Foxtrot?
Just had a question about the rating system. This is new to me, so I just wanted to ask, is each of the categories, what's the number out of the total?
It's scored 1 through 10.
1 through 10 for each one? just to, Reverend's point, I think it'd be interesting to, incorporate, a category that deals with, whether the project addresses historically underrepresented populations in the overall criteria rating system.
Yes, we are looking into that, and Scott, your chief is, correct. You're looking
Yeah.
into equity framework.
Yes, with the commission support, we're definitely looking to advance our city's equity goals. That includes further embedding equity within our own stormwater prioritization model. We're looking at the city equity index that's being developed, which may be an overlay to our technical scoring, if you will. And then there also be consideration for historical aspects as well to determine, as recommended by you all and supported by our city leadership team. Absolutely, yes. In the meantime, for the model, we have removed anything that may even potentially not support equity goals, such as complaints. So some may complain for whatever reason, some may not. So we've taken that out of our scoring at this point in time, but we're looking to formally embed equity into our stormwater prioritization. We're working on that. Right. It's a great question.
And I'm happy to share with Samantha or anybody, particularly the newer SMAC members, the minutes from the November 2021 meeting, where we had a detailed presentation on what you mentioned. So I can share that deck. I mean, it's available online, but I can share that. Right. We have a motion that we accept the Foxtrot Road DA project. Art, for second, Luann, all in favor? Any opposition? No. Very good. Let's go to Guard Hill.
Thank you. At Guard Hill, very similar in nature. We've got a pipe with two sinkholes here that run along the property line. This is between 655A and 6554, Guard Hill 6558 being northeast property. This is about 135 feet of pipes that would be from this end of the right way down to this end, which is a parks property. So again, drainage basin is about 33 acres, so with 42-inch pipe. So similar size here, again, significant public contribution, so this would qualify. Again, it's hard to tell some of these with some of these brush that's come up, but this is again about 20 feet from the structure. We have two sinkholes. There's one right here, and then there's one right in this area with this brush here. So we would look to replace 135 feet with a 42-inch pipe with 42-inch RCP. Provides some element protection, again, hydraulic calculations, make sure that we're not, making a flood situation worse. This, I don't know if you can see this pink here outline, a little bit big, it could be stronger. It's in the 500-year floodplain. So, or I'm sorry, 0.2% annual chance flood. And so, it is an area that would flood. We haven't heard any concerns about flooding. They're really concerned about the sinkhole that's going on. Scoring, again, this is very similar. And I think this speaks, again, I say this a bit, that speaks volumes to the staff that does the scoring, and we go in and check these, make sure they're consistent. So aid on the public safety and just so, Samantha, so you're aware that this is a key driver, public safety and health in the model. It's weighted about 17%, where all the others are a little bit less. So the higher this is going to impact it more. And one of the things you may notice is that the scores are pretty close together. If you could have a score of about 26.5 and 26.2 is maybe, I think, like 15 spots behind. So we're very diligent about our scoring. We have checks to make sure that we're scoring these accurately. Costs. So costs were estimated about $110,000. I would like to get this video just to confirm we had some issues videoing the pipe, but the sinkholes that they're noticeable. I think there's some structural deficiencies, but I would like to confirm we had some issues with all the brush that you saw. We couldn't get TFS out there to video the pipe, but I think, you know, we would want to be diligent about our funds. So if we can line it, we will line it. That will save us funds later, but just as a contingency, assuming they can replace. So I want to point that out.
Okay, any questions about Guard Hill? And a motion, we support this project. And Mark, all in favor? Position, no. Okay. Before we move on to stream stabilization, just a question on the budget. I guess this is for staff. So, I think we'll end up with about $500,000 in the budget for DA projects. Right.
We'll have about $138,000 left of this fiscal year.
So in the packet, on page 17, it had $500,000 carryover from 22. With remaining funds, 515,000.
Stream stabilization.
Stream stabilization. Yes, gotcha. Okay, so what you have is actually more current than this.
I
Yes,
think
okay.
page 17 was the stream stabilization,
Gotcha. Okay.
as I recall.
I guess my overall question is, there's obviously a need because there are so many rows on the spreadsheet, and if we're carrying over, such as a stream stabilization, $500,000, we perhaps will run into a wall because people may say, we're not using the fund, perhaps there's not a need. So I wonder if it's a capacity issue. We see there is a need because there's all the projects on the spreadsheet. So it's more of a fiscal question about either pace of spending, or capacity of staff to meet the project.
Good point, good question. So we had a little bit of, I don't know, it was a delay as we worked through the policy for stream stabilization. We had the funds approved for fiscal year 22. And then we worked with legal to get the policy, we brought it for you all. And then at that point in time, when we were ready to approve funds, we'd already had we were looking at about a $500,000 carry over to begin with.
Right.
So we're working through that to increase those funds. So based off what we're going to spend this or approve this fiscal year, that'll be about $500,000. So
Yeah.
we'll actually be catching up a little bit. We'll just have about a 1 year carry.
So we say this fiscal year, is that 23 ending in June or 24?
This fiscal year ending in June, so we'll
Okay.
have that, I think it was at 515.
515. Gotcha, okay.
And then we also are currently advertising, we have a position that will close on Friday, May 12th. That's going to be a PM that will be designated just for drainage systems projects.
Okay,
Stream sale. So understanding that there's some capacity issues with our project managers, but we're looking to add that person and get them on board. We had to re-advertise. We didn't get as good candidates as we wanted to. But once that person gets rolling and up to speed, we'll be able to crank out more projects.
okay,
What we don't want to do is approve projects and have them sit for an extended period of time.
Right.
And that creates also for citizens.
got it. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, so how much money will you get in budget July 1st into this, if you're carrying 138 over, what will be added to July 1st?
120 or 1.25.
1.25, okay.
Now, I think the next project on the spreadsheet is maybe 109,000 for the drainage assistance. I guess that'll be addressed in fiscal year 24.
Right. Because one of the things that we have worked on is addressing the current capacity of project managers within the CIP. And we've asked, and inquired and pushed them a little bit to make sure that they have capacity, but we don't want to overload them because they start prioritizing DA projects and other CIP projects get left behind.
And these funds will being part of the capital improvements program will roll into the new fiscal year. So they'll carry forward. So the 1.25 million is July 1st, plus this 138,000. That'll be available for the commission to consider as early as July. For new for additional projects. And there's a new separate line item for the upcoming projects, right, Chad? For the street projects.
Like, so, the stream stabilization program, I'll just kind of give a little bit of overview of this program, for new members that, we have a drainage systems program, which went back to 2017. And what, staff and SMAC started realizing was that there are projects that wouldn't otherwise be covered under drainage systems that could be covered under stream stabilization. So SMAC last year approved and council approved, creation of the stream stabilization program. So very similar, we'll go over the program overview, look at the pending projects, some of the project requests, then funding the recommendations and questions. Again, the mission hasn't changed, and the stream stabilization program continues to support that and support stormwater within the core division mission. Again, the slide is very similar to what we heard before with drainage systems. You have to have own property in Raleigh city limits, have stormwater that comes from public property or street. You want to donate a conservation easement, language slightly changed. When we do not cover lots of lot drainage. We have the $500,000 in annual funding that is allotted. Again, that doesn't mean these funds will be spent this fiscal year. With that, we'll be approving 5 projects per year and based off the ranking prioritization model. So this is a very similar prioritization picture, except we broke out the stream erosion projects. So for now, we're just breaking off the stream erosion projects within the drainage systems program. We are looking to refine our weights and models to make it fair. We don't want to just approve projects that are lower on the list because they are typical stream repair projects. We have to make it fair and equitable. So again, we have 2 projects now here in North Raleigh. We have our first 2 projects north of downtown or west of downtown. So the first is Kelly Court. Again, this is green line represents the sewer line. This is HOA common area. These are some townhomes that were created in 1983. And these are some downspouts that connected into the stream. Zoomed out look, we have a drainage basin of 55 acres. And this is the erosion that you can see. It's fairly significant. You can see that the properties are about 20 feet from this erosion, and this erosion has gotten progressively worse since we first scored it a few years ago. It continues to encroach. You may recall that the sewer line ran near the townhomes, so we have worked with Raleigh Water. They are aware of this project. We move on different timelines. When they have an emergency, they really have an emergency, because if their sewer line breaks, nobody, including us, is having a good day. So their intent is to go ahead and do more armoring when they have situations near a creek. We prefer more slope vegetation when possible. But again, that coordination with Raleigh Water is important because that is in their easement. So we have to be mindful of their requests and what they would like to see. But also be mindful of us and the residents. So this picture on the left here is looking from the homes, looking across the stream. You can see that the erosion, not as significant as the homes on the other side of the stream, a little bit further back. So there's a little bit more opportunity to slope it back a little bit more. So we have about 100 linear feet. As mentioned, I would like to go with slope vegetation, some core matting if we could, but I don't think that's gonna be possible in such the situation, given the proximity to the homes. So we'd look to put in some riprap. But again, that's where we're at. It's better to go and get this stabilized. We could probably, on the other side of the stream, do some more, slope vegetation. Because this continues to get progressively worse, so we want to go in as fast as we could and stabilize this. So Simmons Branch, the score, again, we're not always perfect. The score of 6, when the pictures started coming in afterwards, I said, well, this could have been a 7. Simmons Branch had erosion that was longer and closer to the house. So that's why those scores are a little bit different. But again, this does illustrate the fact that this has risen to the top for a very good reason. You can see some of the other scores are pretty similar. And we would average, or cost average coming up to about $112,000. So with that, I'll stop for questions, recommendations, comments. Yes.
Why in Raleigh water district?
Because, okay, good question. They have a lot of projects that are going. And they don't look at this as being an immediate emergency threat, but they understand it is a threat. So it's not,
Not top of the list.
it's not on their top of the list, and that we have to be ahead of them. Because we've had projects in the past which we thought would be a good fit. One on Sawmill, where a manhole was exposed, and they said, now it's an emergency, and they just armored the side. So again, we have to try and be ahead of them. So if this were to continue to erode, they probably would go in and armor it. But we don't want to get to that.
Any other questions? Yeah, motion to approve. Mark, a second. And Samantha, are all in favor? Any opposition? Okay,
Thank you. All right, we've got a similar one here on Bells Valley Drive. Now, this is unique because oftentimes what we see on some of these stream repair projects is that the creek actually runs on near the property line. And this one, it runs on these 3 properties, 9457, 9453, and 9449. It actually runs towards the middle third, middle of the property. Again, sewer line is green, but the erosion is on the southeast side, more threatening the homes. Zoomed out look, drainage basin is 89 acres. Again, I'll point out that these are stream erosion projects, and I point that out because you can see there's flood hazard soils on this. The yard does flood, but we're there to protect the stream. There's really not much we could do because it is a flood hazard soil in terms of yard flooding. So this is looking towards the house from the stream. You can see there's, about 20 feet. At times it gets a little bit closer, but it is fairly steep. And I point that out because, again, it kind of limits your options in terms of sloping it back as much. I think maybe we could do a little bit of a hybrid approach on this where we armor it with riprap, but slope one side and maybe do riprap up to about 5 feet and then slope it back a little bit. But that's something that we would have to confirm when we do we study, or we're studying, looking to consult with an engineer. So I think as we get further along from the home, more of this area, we could do some vegetative solutions at 80 foot of riprap. So again, very similar, about 130 feet of stream erosion that we're doing. And I wanted to compare it. I didn't want to compare it with the same project that we had. We had a project that came through SMAC in January of 2022. Brookside Drive, about 20 feet, yard flooding. We didn't have it was understood that this is to protect the erosion. And again, very, very similar, score here. So we feel very good about our scores. So with that, we estimate about 98,000. Now this is a little bit less because we don't have as many conflicts with sewer. Sewers on the other side. So with that, I'll stop for questions, comments, recommendations.
The neighbors have the same, let's change those two lots.
Yes, so it's all through here. So this is looking at the up end, looking down.
Like, are they gonna,
They've all participated and they've all said that they are willing to donate easements.
okay.
Any other questions? Have a motion to approve? Ryan? Okay, there. All in favor? Any opposition? Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Before you go, I wonder, would it be beneficial for staff to do some type of spider plot or something graphically to illustrate capacity? Because we know, I mean, that list is super long. And so if you were to add two more staff people, then how much could you tackle? And the reason I ask that is that information would be beneficial to council because then it would be helpful in budgeting. Because if we're always operating in the surplus, then it shows that perhaps it's being overfunded. We know that's not true because we're close to the ground. And so there's a way to do type analysis that if we add a couple of staff people, we're able to tackle these projects, and then you could argue the funding for those projects, that would be helpful.
Yeah, well, we've started that process a little bit in terms of, because we have looked at the fact that our unencumbered funds are at a significant level that has raised the attention of budget and office. So we are aware of that. We are actively trying to work through that, but that's a good point. We'll incorporate that suggestion. Thank you.
Maybe as an add to that, I mean, you evaluating and occurred and seeing site costs are going up another 30 or 40% in the last 18 months or so. It's just a lot of different reasons why. Are you seeing that? Are you working through that? I mean, $100,000 to spend on a repair seems like a really good deal, but I could sneeze and lose $100,000 on any site projects. And so it's just trying to see if are you allocating, going back to your budgeting system thing. Next year should be 750, or 3 years from now should be 750 versus 500. How are you adjusting to your times?
There's a super cool thing so far where you tell as we do our multi-year capital plan, we are projecting ahead. Taking the best information on predicted costs, we have seen those increase quite a bit in recent years. So the best that we can, we'll carry that forward. So $100,000 a couple years out. One is much more than we can do. So it's less information which we can take. If you bring back some presentation for y'all here like that in the future as well. It's not all detail that, but great suggestions in terms of the capacity to deliver. Chaz, how many projects are already on the streams list? I saw quite a few.
It was about 45.
That's 45. So you consider 2 today, so very thoughtful feedback. Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you.
I think I'm good at that.
Good afternoon again. I'm Scott Bryan. This is where I typically am here presenting some project. Thank you all, Commission. This is I'm excited about the stormwater utility fee grading topic. We want to grow this program. Now, as I describe some of this information, no, this is not unique to Raleigh. Stormwater utility fee grading programs for various reasons don't have huge amounts of participation. So we have, just to give you some numbers, we have more than 135,000 customers in our stormwater utility fee. Any guesses about how many participants we have in the current stormwater utility fee grading program? It wasn't in your backup material. So what do you think? Out of 135,000? That's not, you're not far off. Maybe there are 4 customers. Now those 4 customers, as Matt and Allison are here to help me with this. They have numerous parcels.
94.
94 total parcels amongst those 4 customers, so they're large property owners. But it really speaks to, we want to grow incentives for all of our customers, right? We really want to do that. So the stormwater utility fee crediting program that went in place with the stormwater utility in 2004 is primed for some updates and some enhancements. And so we're excited to bring that discussion to you today. The whole idea around a fee credit is if a customer does something on their property that lowers the impact of stormwater runoff that the community has to manage, right? Puts the checks on floods there on site, treats water quality there on site. We know on site in general is oftentimes, not all the time, but majority of the time is the best way to control stormwater at or near the site, with few exceptions. And so we want to provide credit for credit-worthy activities. So we're going to hopefully try to grow that program with y'all. The commission saw this several years ago when we started working on some potential enhancements. We're now coming back to you with our Raftellus team in support to really bring you a robust program. So today is informational. Today is to get your feedback, your thoughts. Today is not to make final decisions or anything like that. We'll come back to you as we take your recommendations from today and let you know what we're recommending to carry forward. Ultimately, this will need to go to City Council for their review and approval as the new credit program. But we're really hoping to grow this program. We know we really want more than 4 customers. Ideally, 135,000 customers, right? You know, why wouldn't that be a nirvana situation of, you know, really tremendous on-site control? But we want to grow the program. We want to give credit where it's due, and we want to provide further incentives. You know, this is thankfully not a major issue for us right now with regards to our stormwater utility, because we provide a very high level of service for what we feel is a very affordable rate for the community, which is $7.18 a month. We provide a very high range of services for that. Over time, though, as we grow and adjust that, you know, the more incentives we have in place so folks can keep their bills in line, that's going to be a good thing. You know, I'll be looking to that as a customer, you know, so I know that all the customers will be looking to that too. So let me first start off by introduce our team. Matt Hunt.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Hunt, Business Services Manager, Raleigh Stormwater Program. Glad to be here with you all.
Leads our business services team, and they administer the stormwater utility fee credit
With the team.
and do a great job of that. Allison is here as well. Allison works with Matt, our utility billing supervisor. So those are our day-to-day professionals who are going to be administering the stormwater utility fee. How many calls do we get on the fee?
A lot. We document all of them.
We get a lot on the fee, but the fee credit, maybe.
Yeah, not much.
We want to grow the awareness of the fee credit for sure. Katie Cromwell is here with us with Raftellus Financial Consultants. I'm going to turn it to her in just a little bit here to kind of give us an overview of the project that they're supporting for us. But real quickly, some background. So we do have a current utility fee credit program. We think the awareness perhaps is not very high of that program in the community. You know, wow, there's a fee credit program. So we want to grow the awareness of the program that we currently have. We want to enhance the credit program to make more options available for folks to actually get credit. We want to review the amount of credit that we give. It's Javier here, our financial manager. Hey, Javier. Javier is very cognizant of how much credit we might give. So if you think about it, if 100% stormwater is managed on site, that'd be wonderful, right? But there's still be new things for the city, for the community to take care of for stormwater management. So we're doing some analysis of, you know, what max credits might be there for water quality, water quantity. We've got some new exciting credits to offer for you for discussion today as well. So we're trying to put a financial hat on as well as an engineering technical hat to make sure that we're keeping our budget in line. So that's not an issue today. Those current customers, in terms of dollar value, how much, Matt? About almost 400,000.
400,000.
So the revenue.
1% impact on revenue. Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. So really modest currently. Just under $400,000 revenue reduction for those beneficial things that those customers are doing. So glad to have them on board. And Mr. Tim Sullivan is here. Please, thank you for coming. As you have comments throughout, has engaged with Matt and Allison with regards to interest in the fee credit program. And I think is looking forward to us enhancing that program for all the community. So please don't hesitate to offer comments as we go.
Now, that I just got involved on behalf of the church who did a program quite some time ago. And I think it was more of a stormwater quality improvement. While the city gave a large grant, they still paid a significant amount of money for the church. And yet, get no credit and pay, I think, a little over 500 a month, just in stormwater fee based on, their apartment. And so when I look back, there's not a lot of incentive that we have done that really point, because they can use that money to just keep paying their fee.
Great. Thank you so much for your feedback. And as we go, feel free to offer comments. We really appreciate that. We do want to provide incentives. And as Reverend Taylor and I were chatting coming in, also these measures must be maintained to perform. And so incentives to provide for proper maintenance, perhaps even including our reward rewards, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. So that's a little bit on our current program. Participation is obviously very low. It's not unique to Raleigh Stormwater Utility. That's the current industry perspective. You see the highest amounts of participation in these fee credit programs in places where the fee is $20, $25 a month. There's some places that have fees like that. Obviously, higher participation in some of those areas, but we are hoping to grow the program mainly for because this means that our community, our residents are engaging in stormwater management within their neighborhoods, within their communities, and helping us because we'll always have a list of things to do. So as much help as we can get. With that, I believe I'm going to turn this over to Katie Cromwell with Raptellus, and she's going to walk us through their scope. They're helping us to kind of look at what we've talked about to date, in terms of the existing program, some of the tentative working recommendations that we had to do all from a couple or so years ago, and then look at the framework for enhancing the program, and then we'll bring that back to you certainly before it goes to city council for finalization. So Katie, I'll turn this over to you. And again, thank you, Commissioner.
Great. Yeah. All right. Well, Scott just gave our wonderful overview. So I'm just I'm just gonna keep moving forward. As Scott said, this is an informational item, and I want this to be a discussion. I want to hear from you guys, and I think throughout the presentation, I'm gonna kind of pause to give you guys a chance to talk and let us know what you think. But the team of Raptellus, WK Dixon, and Planners for Environmental Quality we're currently engaged with City of Raleigh's to provide stormwater utility, financial, and program management consulting services. We have been working with you guys for 3 going on 4 years, I think. And we are currently in our third statement of work. I think this is my 3rd time getting to present to you guys, and so I'm happy to be back here. And our current statement of work is kind of focused on the 4 things that are up there: financial planning model and debt issuance support. We've been looking at that task kind of throughout the Raptellus engagement. The topic that we're talking about today, the utility fee crediting program, and looking at how we can modernize and update that to kind of meet some of the goals that Scott was talking about. We are also looking at operationalizing stormwater program equity. That's a big task, and I know of a lot of interest. It's not going to be the focus of today's discussion, but it certainly is related. So, and we're also going to be talking about communications. Scott said, getting the word out. So really, we view a lot of these tasks are interrelated, but, the focus of today's discussion is really on the fee crediting program. And I think we will probably be having some future presentations for you all on some of the other tasks as well upcoming. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the process that we've been following to kind of reevaluate the fee crediting program. And we've really taken an approach of, kind of starting at the bottom. So a really foundational look at the program, and then kind of providing recommendations on how we can bring it forward and, increase opportunities for, credits and increase participation. And so the first workshop, we held a series of workshops, and the first workshop really focused on reflections of the current program. We had many city staff members participating, kind of representing a lot of different departments, and we're so thankful for their time, and they got to provide a lot of input. So really like reflections on the current stormwater fee crediting program. What are some goals for the future? And Scott's kind of already started talking about some of those goals that we landed on. And then also talking about alignment with your stormwater SMART goals. You guys have these like well-established goals for the stormwater program, and everything we're doing related to the fee crediting program really should align with all of those established goals. So kind of taking feedback from that first workshop, then we started talking about specific credit types. And we not only talked about modifications to the existing credit program that you have, but also introducing some options for some new credit types that you could consider adding to your fee crediting program, and kind of providing some examples of where that's been successful other places, and kind of talking about how some of those new credit types might fit in for the city of Raleigh. And also talking about customer eligibility, as Scott said, you know, we've been wanting to increase customer participation. Can we get it past 4? Can we get, you know, 5, 6, 7 and more? So how can we kind of consider customer eligibility? And then the third workshop, which we had most recently, was kind of taking some of the credit types that we talked about in workshop 2, and credit types that kind of city staff and that we all agreed on were, you know, really good fits for the city of Raleigh, at least in the short term, trying to implement. What would a more detailed look at administration, you know, how would Matt and Allison actually be able to administer the program, and other city staff that are involved as well? What would that look like? And then we started talking about new credits and the associated percentages. We're going to talk a little bit about some percentages today, but certainly nothing is set in stone, and we kind of have some bounding conditions on some of the percentages. All right, so that's been our process so far. It's really been great. We've had a lot of really wonderful participation by people, and just to echo what Scott said, you know, participation in credit programs is generally very low. Revenue impacts often don't exceed 2%. So I think you guys you're well under 1%. Often they don't exceed 2%. And there's a variety of reasons for lower participation, but there's certainly room for improvement. And I think the more opportunities you have for citizens to engage with the stormwater program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the fee crediting program goals, and kind of talking a lot about what we talked about in our first workshop with city staff and some of the feedback that we heard. And then kind of at the end of this section, I'm going to ask for you guys to kind of provide some input, so you can get ready. So I just want to, you know, highlight your stormwater SMART goals. Like I said, we want to make sure that what we're doing with the stormwater fee crediting program is in alignment with a lot of these goals. So I'm not going to read them all off, but this is like a really, you know, overarching perspective on what the goals for Raleigh Stormwater are. And so the credit goals should kind of align with that. And I mean, you guys also have specific measurable goals related to level of service and improving your stormwater program and good use of resources and all of that stuff. So as we go along, I think you're going to see us try to tie back to a lot of these goals as we're talking about the credits. So in our discussions, these are some of the areas that we really focused on. So one of the first bullet up there, expand credit opportunities and eligibility for activities that are worthy. You know, credits are not things to give away. You know, we want people to actually be providing improvements related to stormwater in order to receive a credit. They aren't they aren't gifts to just be doling out. So, we want to make sure that the credit opportunities that we offer are worthy, but that also there are plenty of opportunities that all people could participate in. So right now, really, the opportunities are limited to your commercial rate class. So thinking about how we could potentially expand and offer credit opportunities to residential customers as well. Also, we've talked about increasing rainwater rewards participation. I think it's a great program, and Mr. Sullivan here has kind of, like he said, had gone through that process with his church. So how can we kind of increase participation in that really great program? Also incentivizing and treating offsite runoff. So thinking about regional stormwater control measures that can really treat larger land areas. Also treating runoff within the city over offsite buy down. So, we have to manage stormwater within the city. So how can we make sure that we are encouraging that? Expanding awareness of credits in GSI. So how are we going to communicate that to people, and how can we incentivize people to do that? And I think that ties closely back into the rainwater rewards participation as well. Treating existing impervious areas. So, you've got a lot of historic development. How can we encourage people to treat that existing impervious area? We don't want the credit program to be so complicated that it's administratively burdensome for city staff. That just costs, the credit program will cost more to administer than what it would actually be worth to you. So we really want to balance those administrative details with also providing really great opportunities for participation. Like I've said before, alignment with the stormwater SMART goals. And then, as Scott said, taking steps to kind of address affordability. Credits are not an affordability program, but when you think about it, offering opportunities for people to, take steps to lower their bills is certainly valuable and can have affordability implications, certainly as, rates potentially go up in the future and cost of everything is going up these days. So those were some of the goals that we landed on. And then we kind of talked a little bit about some additional feedback from city staff. Kind of these are some bounding conditions on what we're considering for updating the credit program. So currently the credits are only available for people that are going above and beyond the requirement. So that's kind of tied to that first bullet on the last one that says offering credit, for things that are worthy. So, we kind of said the condition that, things that are worthy are things that go above and beyond what you're required to do. And so we're going to stick with that philosophy. I think that was what we heard from city staff, that really that's something they wanted to continue to focus on. One of the credit types that we talked about were credits for industrial and PDS permit holders. And that's not a credit type that we're going to consider at this point in time. Credit programs can evolve over time. It may be revisited in the future, but that was a credit type that city staff wasn't particularly interested in moving forward at this point in time. We do currently offer credits for MS4 and PDS permit holders. And that's a 35% credit. NC State's getting that, DOT. And so we decided not to modify anything related to that credit at this point in time. Also, we felt like maintaining the maximum credit of 50% was something that, and that's for non-MS4 permit holders, but was something that was important to also keep in mind. And that's because, properties and people can't reduce their stormwater impact to nothing. Stormwater is a system, and we all benefit from having a very well-maintained system. So while you may be taking care of the stormwater in your house, you also rely on having, stormwater being maintained on all the roads that you travel on and things like that. So you can't reduce your stormwater, your demand for stormwater service to zero. So, kind of maintaining, the cap where it is, we felt like was appropriate for this point in time. And so the last three things are kind of things that we wanted to make sure were included as we, kind of move forward with some of the credit, program modifications. So provide a menu of options and encourage stacking of credits. So while there may be a 50% credit, all the ways you can get to it, we want to provide lots of different ways where you can get to it. So, more people can kind of get to that maximum credit. And, really have different ways that people can participate in the credit program and really, get a lot of value out of it. And then finally, we wanted to acknowledge that, there may be cases where a particular developer or property owner is doing some really, unique stuff related to stormwater that has really great benefit. We want to acknowledge that those may be worthy of a credit. And so we wanted to at least provide a framework for, those people to be able to apply for and, kind of have a credit considered for their property. So I think with that, before we dive into it, now is your moment. We would love to hear some feedback on some of those goals and, any other thoughts that you have. I have a pen ready to go. Any questions too, also, because.
One that I had, I'm sure you all might have, is from our current credit program, and so the 50%, we did that financial analysis, we did the technical analysis, the best can be done. It's always a, approximation. So the 50% is the current max for the majority of customers. If the customer does hold the NPDES MS4 permit, which there's just a few of those in Raleigh City, Raleigh, NC State University, and NC DOT are really the only three that hold that permit. They can get the plus 35% on top of the 50. So we do have at least one that has 85% credit. So the 85% is the current max. The real effective max for majority of customers is 50%. And it's really 20%. Use the definition of that. So it's 20% for your on-site. There's a 30% for like an off-site control. So you really have to think about that. If you're managing off-site, significant off-site runoff, that's pretty a large type facility. So rarely will you have that. So it's really, while it's 50 for most, it's really 20 for most. And so what we want to do with Katie and y'all's help and the team's help is to really make that 50 a robust way to get to 50 through various formats, quality with GSI. There's other things I want to give away all the, he's going to share with us here, but really a whole menu of options that folks can stack those up to that potential max. But really it's 20 for the most part, 30 if you have a large facility, which is rare, and then 35% more if you're an EPDS permit holder, which is very, very good.
So is your goal to keep the 20-30 thing going or to try to get people to the 50?
Try to get to the 50, or give the opportunity to excel to reach 50.
This is what Scott's describing here. So most people are kind of controlling their on-site stormwater. So if they're, meeting or exceeding the 25-year or larger storm event, they can get 20%. Now, if they're also managing that, and this is where the 30% is, if they're treating the upstream tributary that's greater than 100 acres to the 25-year storm, then they're getting 30 plus the 20.
Right.
So that's the only way to get to 50 currently.
Yeah, that's fine. So, and under the current policy, it's cumulative, right? So if, for example, if you have an SCM device that could treat the on-site and the off-site as well. So for example, like Raleigh is one of them. It's a big lake, right? So it manages kind of the on-site and the upstream, so that it adds up, right? So and adding to that NPDES MS4, that is the same as that. So that kind of teaches you up to that.
That's a great point. So that's kind of sort of our max. It's a great example of our current 85%, 20, 30, 50, plus 35 for the EPDS. That's our 85% for NC State University. It is here if there's any questions about development requirements, but when we say going beyond the standard to get credit, the standard is the development requirements for stormwater management that are in effect. So that currently is the 2 and 10 in terms of the peak control. You know, we're going to bring to you, Katie, here in just a second, some water quality, other types of credits. And so there's certain requirements for them in place as well. So the idea would also be to go beyond that and maintain that same sort of above and beyond.
So, okay, so, well, we can go on. So say somebody goes into a rezoning off, which is 25-year situation, they, because 10's only required, they then get the opportunity to go for 20% currently,
That's right.
or do they get to go for?
They've been correct, me, but I believe they would get the 20%.
No, it would not. It's part of the rezoning condition, they have to go to 25-year storm.
Rezoning condition.
Counts as ordinance, once it's approved as part of.
That's counted as the required.
Okay. So that would be their minimum, about here at that point, if that's their condition.
That becomes the development standard. That's right. I missed that part. I apologize. So any of the conditions that are placed upon that become the standard, but typically the 2 and 10.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, of the 4 users of the program right now, are they private property owners or developers? Who's the demographic there that's accessing?
Yes. Matt and Allison, can you all, is he State University? Certainly.
Yeah, the current manual and policy is really more for commercial. So it doesn't include residential, and that's the hope for this program with your advisement, is to expand the program to really include residential units and including water quality as well. But yeah, as of now, it's really more for.
Is it 2 or 3 public and 1 private?
So
I think just in
NCDOT,
terms of that. So
Correct.
is that part of the question?
Yeah, do you know?
Yeah,
and postal service and a retirement home.
that's right. So there's really only 1 private,
Correct.
1 private commercial.
You mentioned other municipalities that are closer to 2%.
Mhm.
Do they do the stacking?
Yes. That's one of the ways that they've been able to increase participation, is they offer lots of different types of credits and different ways to participate.
I think that adds to the complexity too.
Of course,
And
yes.
it's communicating,
Yeah.
explaining it, calculating. Is it gonna be worth it? Yeah.
Then target 2%, or do you want to go above?
Oh, that's like I said, that's on revenue. I don't think we've really established any targets on, like participation in terms of percentage. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
we want to
something
grow
work on,
for
but
sure, you know, and
More than 4.
yeah, we want to grow the program, but for credit, as Katie's mentioned, for credit worthy activities, things that are really worthy of credit, they're going above and beyond the standards or the conditions that might be placed upon development or redevelopment. So those are credit worthy activities. Katie, perhaps, and some of the utilities too offer a kind of a I'll call it a fully performance-based credit system that even for meeting requirements, there is potentially some credit.
Yeah.
If you think about a performance scale going up, you know, meeting requirements, quote unquote, may be this amount of credit, but going above would get you more credit. So that probably increases participation, at least in some cases.
Okay, I'm gonna ask maybe a question to you. So if you did an R3 project, and it wasn't required by code, can you then go get the credit on the bill too?
Currently, no.
No,
Okay, so that's why you're here.
but when it's.
Got it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, it's just a concrete thing, are you open to remembering that fact? Because,
Yes.
you know, there was like,
Sides.
as part of the grant, they had to maintain it for 10 years, which they're still in that time frame.
Right.
But it does seem, like I say, it seems they're completely disincentivized doing a grant. And I think in this case, it's primarily just off downstream with water quality. And I would certainly argue regardless, you know, after the 10 years, anything that they maintain it, it's clearly above and beyond,
Yeah.
but it's still above and beyond what was required at the time. So, enough said, that that's my one pointed question, are you considering changing the fact that currently are not eligible?
It's great feedback. In fact, the answer to that would be Katie's I'm giving all of Katie's.
I know. It's okay.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
We do want to, yes. And in fact, several years ago, we had talked about with the commission, maybe after that agreement, that 5-year or that 10-year, then offering credit. Our more recent discussions have been to, with commission support and of course, council support, immediately begin that credit. So yeah, that is one of our recommendations that we're working on.
And I think it goes back to what Taylor thought last week's meeting or the meeting before, especially for the R3 is that may be fully 100%. You know, the idea that there's some ability, well, who pays for the maintenance of those items moving forward, right? If there is a maintenance, there is a yearly check, there's just maintenance on it, right? And so maybe just credits start to then, in a way, directly start to offer opportunity to cover that cost.
Great point.
If you started at the beginning.
It can be another tool in the toolbox to help, increase their participation and to offset those ongoing costs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's great.
Right. So kind of gone over this. This is the current framework and we didn't specify this, but this is really focused on controlling the peak volume. So this is a potential modified framework. What I'm showing today is actually what was brought before the SMAC in 2019. A previous version of the SMAC, maybe Mr. Senior had seen this before. So you can see here, we talked about how you get the 20% plus the 30%. That kind of falls within this category, but really you could control more. So we kind of, are looking at this sliding scale for peak control. So, even if you're going, above, this is the potential, modified credit value for controlling peak. Now, the same, stormwater device also has some, volume control with it typically, and also water quality, which we're going to talk about in a second. So while, the current program doesn't really consider, benefits related to volume control, we could. And so this is kind of how we're getting the stacking involved. So, just in terms of volume control, you could get up to 30%, depending on how much of the annual volume your control measure is controlling. And then water quality as well. And I think, having the water quality component is really nice. GSI is also has a lot of water quality benefits. And we said before, really encouraging GSI is really important. So again, this is how we can kind of stack the credits just in terms of this stormwater facility credit or, stormwater control measure, or whatever you want to call it. And then finally, some other modifications. So credit. So like I said, kind of moving away from just peak control, but looking at peak control volume and water quality. And allowing people to kind of stack based on that. Having, Raleigh Rainwater Rewards projects eligible to receive a credit upon completion. So not even after the operation and maintenance period is over. So as soon as the project is done, they also could be eligible for a credit. And that's another way that kind of to expand some of the eligibility to residential properties as well. We also talked a lot about potentially even having a credit add-on for if you implement a green infrastructure device. So that's something we didn't really show in the tables, but we talked a lot about, to what extent do we want to try to use, a credit as a mechanism by which to incentivize that. And what credit value would actually incentivize people to install a GSI practice over maybe another practice that they're considering. And of course, it offers multiple ways to get to the 50% cap. So you'll kind of see at the top, I checked some of the things that were meeting, kind of going back to some of the goals that we talked about at the beginning. So, you know, really trying to focus on GSI, talking about, you know, one of the things we talked about was incentivizing R3, and I think getting a credit immediately upon completion is a great way to potentially do that, and a nice thing to be able to tell people when they inquire about, you know, the R3 program. You know, it certainly increases opportunities for people to get a credit, and, you know, of course, it creates some impervious area, which is another really important component of it.
Exactly. And the idea behind this one here is so we all see how these are really aligned with our SMART goals, with our mission and what we're trying to do with quality, quantity, especially with regards to GSI. But this would be, if GSI is chosen, it would get credit from the performance perspective, you know, what it does in terms of peak volume and water quality. Those would be stacked. This might be an additional, I don't know if we talked about numbers yet, but plus some additional, you know, because that we really want to encourage that GSI solution where possible. So different ways to get to that cap. And we're very excited about this potential for Rainwater Rewards to, you know, make that available, you know, really from day one as an additional incentive. Last comment I'm making this one here is really the current program is really just this. This underneath here, peak control. So think about our hydrograph and stormwater, the peak that's currently what the only thing of credit. The volume is the full amount of water under that hydrograph. So we would bring credit for that. And then the water quality is the amount of pollutants that are in that hydrograph. So credit-worthy devices that address each of those stacked as appropriate up to a certain cap is what we're talking about. Beyond requirements, beyond requirements.
This is the last slide on kind of talking about the stormwater facility credit. Any other thoughts on this particular one before we start talking about new credits? All right, great. Well, I'm gonna continue then. So the first new credit type that we're gonna talk about is an education credit. So this is not currently offered by the city of Raleigh. And, you know, Wake County Schools is your largest ratepayer, correct? And so, you know, this is the way the credit will work. So, you know, public and private, K through 12 schools could kind of receive, we talked about a credit percentage in the 5 to 10% range. None of that's set in stone, but just to give you a little perspective on the percentages that we were talking about. And they could get a credit for delivering education related to stormwater. We kind of talked about the school has to serve a minimum of 50 students, just so that we're kind of targeting those accredited schools that kind of have a large reach. Credits would be applicable to each individual school. So each school would have to kind of deliver some sort of stormwater related education. It wouldn't be done at the system level. And then, you know, where this really comes in as a benefit, there's lots of benefits to education about stormwater, but, you know, it is a requirement in your NPDES permit. And so, you know, we could structure it so that reporting related to this helps support, you know, NPDES reporting. And, you know, an application would be required and the credit would be good for 1 year. So, you know, you have to deliver the education ongoing. Exact details, you know, we're still working out. We talked with Carmela, who does a lot of the education right now. She's one person. And so it would be really great if, you know, if schools could kind of take some of this on and do some education related to stormwater. It's certainly a great opportunity to not only spread awareness about stormwater and the importance of it, but also about Raleigh Stormwater and about the credit program itself. And, you know, even about R3, you know, kids go home and talk to their parents, and, you know, it's a good way to kind of spread the word about it. We do have kind of on some of our next steps related to this credit is, talking to some representatives from schools. I think, we want to make sure that we aren't overly burdening educators by offering this. And so we want to see how, this credit could be, offered, but not, burden educators to be like, well, great, now I have to do this other thing because Wake County Schools told me I have to. So, that's certainly on our list. We want to be aware of unintended consequences related to this. So like I said, this kind of increases opportunities. It's another opportunity for, and this will be offered to public. I've mentioned Wake County schools, but public and private schools could get this credit. Really increases awareness, it supports, the city's NPDES permit requirements. And even if, depending on your next iteration of your permit, if you have even more outreach required, you already have to jump on it. And certainly helps support, community engagement. This credit type is offered other places. I will say the credit percentage varies widely across places. So, I named a few up here: Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, that's suburban Cleveland. They offer a 25% credit for education. East Liverpool, Ohio, 75% credit. So very generous there. We're looking at something a little more modest. Arlington County, Virginia, they're still in the works, but they've have publicly announced that they're looking at a 35% credit. So, it varies a lot, and certainly depending on the success of the program, credit percentages can be tweaked and modified. Yeah.
So we would provide the materials.
So the way we're imagining is Carmela goes in the schools and, our representative from City of Raleigh Stormwater goes in and does education, they could get a credit. They do have to fill out the application, which would require them to put in some information that kind of supports the NPDES reporting requirement, like number of students and content and stuff like that. We also imagine, at least providing resources or like identifying resources that, hey, we found this curriculum. We really think it's good. If you guys do this, and tell us about it in the application, we'll give you the credit for it. I don't think we're imagining that, City of Raleigh Stormwater is gonna develop a whole curriculum, necessarily. I think we'll kind of leverage kind of a lot of existing educational materials out there.
That's very good. And we do want to do it as friendly as possible for the teacher for
Yeah.
implementing this. And so fitting it as much as possible with what they're already sharing with regards to environmental awareness and education. And then with perhaps just some minimal tweaks to be able to get that correct as well.
Yeah, knee-jerk reaction, what a cool idea. Outside the box, like, God, that's a great concept. But then I started thinking about the details and like.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with some of the school systems, working with Kevin, because Kevin worked with those school systems well in Carmela. And I'm wondering how many schools already have curriculums that might qualify for this, and that comes down to what is education related to stormwater consist of, that's gonna have to be worked out.
Yeah.
And then following that is, okay, if a lot of the schools do qualify, how much of an impact is that gonna have on your finances?
Yeah, exactly.
So your biggest ratepayer is cutting 10% off the budget, that's gonna hit you pretty hard. And then just last question, how does the county pay for their utility fees now? Do they do school by school, or is the county system to pay as a whole, or how do they do that?
I believe it by parcel, correct, Allison? Correct,
Yes.
by parcel.
Yeah, it's a parcel based charge,
School
so
system.
it may be rolled up into one account, but
That's what I'm wondering, where the check comes from, is it a big check? from the
Oh, I'm sure. county.
Yeah, those are fantastic points, Mark. That's good.
I think this is a fantastic idea as well, really exciting. I was just reflecting, so we, Sound River's a nonprofit I work with, we have a program, a campus stormwater program that's very similar to this, but it's sort of combining the earlier idea of offering credits for actual like green stormwater projects with this idea of, through the education piece. And so what I'm wondering is kind of a couple things. If a campus were to want to do some sort of, green stormwater project on their property, would they be able to get the credits from the other credits as well as this, if they were to pair that with
Yep.
an educational curriculum, and
Certainly.
might there be ways to sort of leverage those two things so that, you know, campuses are implementing projects that they can then learn about? But there's a lot of curriculum out there that's great and tied to state standards, which I know is huge for teachers, so.
Yeah. Exactly. And we actually have an example, at the end that's kind of the school and how they could potentially, stack credits. I mean, I think when we've been talking about it, we're like, okay, maybe the school can do an R3 project. Students go out and learn about it, and all of a sudden they're getting, 30-40% credit kind of for that. And, students love to go outside and see real things. And so I think it's a really good
Lots of
opportunity
very
to kind of do that.
facilities on the school campuses, so.
And they
what a
get
great
each
way
other.
to-
parents.
Exactly. And schools have a lot of land. So there are some of the ones that have the best opportunities to do some, stormwater control device type things because they have a lot of land to do it.
Which hopefully could have a long-term impact, right? On the long run, that will help us and help the SCM devices as well in the stormwater system.
One resource that staff could provide would be GSI within close proximity to schools. Just thinking about my context with Carnage in the Walnut Creek Wetland Center across the street, as well as Fuller Elementary right across the street from St. Ambrose.
Absolutely. That's
You can go and see.
wonderful. I'm very excited about the potential here. Certainly.
Yeah.
To really help get the word out. We learned a lot from our kids, right? 75% credit is very interesting for sure. So we'll probably put a,
Yeah.
may not recommend quite that much, but Mark's point here, we are looking at their potential. So we'll bring back recommendations for you that we think are sustainable and everything.
Next one. All right, so the next credit we're gonna talk about is a participation credit. So the way, this is a new credit, like education, and kind of the way this would work would be, it would be a credit for property owners who participate in events, volunteer events, like stream cleanups, adopt a stream, stream monitoring, storm drain marking, adopt a storm drain, like those sorts of activities. And offer them a one-time dollar-based fee credit amount for their participation in that. And we got the opportunity to talk to Joyce, who runs a lot of the volunteer programs that you guys are already doing. And, we kind of learned most of those types of events are about 4 hours long. So we're like, okay, well, if somebody participates in an activity, great, we could give them a one-time fee credit. One of the things that we also talked about was trying to make sure creditable activities for people with varying physical abilities. Not everybody can get down in a stream and clean it up. So making sure there are plenty of opportunities and, in terms of administration, kind of providing any details related to how the credit would be applied, kind of on the existing volunteer registration form that the city has. And we also, like I said, one-time credit per volunteer per year would be a flat dollar amount. And the other thing is, it's not said here, but we imagine that city of Raleigh, events that are coordinated could, people could go and participate in those and get this credit. But also if somebody wants to organize an event, and they can reach out to the city and say, hey, I want to, clean up this stream over here. Can I get a credit? And we'll say, yeah, sure. So it could be kind of led by the volunteers as well. Again, this supports NPDS reporting. It's a requirement in your NPDS program to have kind of public participation. So this kind of meets some of that. Other administrative details, we talked about applying the credit to an account kind of within 90 days of the event. So in the event, there's like a huge surge of events in the spring, it's, Creek Week or something, and, a lot of people go out and do stuff, we don't want to overly burden, Matt and Allison and trying to get all these credits in. The other thing that we talked about was allowing people to either apply their one-time credit to their own bill or donate it. So they could donate it potentially into its own stormwater bank that, we could think about how we might want to structure that, but for people that are maybe having difficulty paying their stormwater fees. Alternatively, potentially having it go into the Raleigh Water UCAP, the Utility Customer Assistance Program. And, the stormwater fees are all conveyed on the Raleigh Water bills. So, people that are having, trouble paying their utility bills broadly, which includes their stormwater fee, can apply to receive assistance through the UCAP program. So this credit type has been done very successfully for the city of Baltimore. They're kind of best known for this credit type. Last year, they had around 250 participants in the program. It's a good opportunity to get residential customers kind of participating in the credit program. And so, like I said, it kind of increases the opportunities. It expands the eligibility to the residential rate class, which we aren't really reaching now. Certainly promotes community awareness related to stormwater, and then also kind of starts to address some of those affordability considerations that allows people the opportunity to have a little bit of control over what their stormwater fee might be. So, any thoughts on this one?
We're not smacking the volunteer opportunity, right?
You get a one-time credit. Yeah, and I can tell you, City of Baltimore, they require 8 hours to get a credit, but we learned from Joyce, 4 hours seems to be what most people are participating here. And you get $10 for every 8 hours that you volunteer, up to a $30 max for the year.
And this could be really helpful also for areas where folks couldn't participate, for example, in off-grid projects due to the cost affordability. So that would be a really good kind of incentive to let folks know that, hey, you could participate in a volunteer event where you could get a credit, kind of commend them on these type of credits. So it kind of incentivizes them, especially in these areas. So hopefully we'll get that.
Very much, Matt. And really, we're very excited about this donation opportunity here too, to perhaps a bank, perhaps our new cap, or perhaps Katie would also potentially talk about if we're getting together to donate to their organization. They're representing potentially.
Yeah, potentially. So, sometimes organizations like churches like to organize an event, and then everybody donates their time to paying their church's stormwater fees. So that's another common structure as well.
With these, the one time would be one time per year, up to that cap. So the same cap will be there, but it could be renewed, the following years. This is our, but we really want folks to participate currently around. Thanks to Joyce and our team and you all, and getting word out there. We have around 2,000 hours per year of volunteer engagement across these programs, from Adopt a Stream to the others. We want to grow that. Certainly we want more volunteers in general, but hey, by the way, we also have this extra incentive available for you. So I just want to add that. And there's just another extra encouragement for growing participation in the program. And this is going very well in Baltimore, it sounds like.
Yeah, they've had it for many years. They've expanded it to also include like tree planting activities as well. They're pretty urbanized, so they have a lot of urban heat island type issues. So, you know, having increased number of trees and stuff really benefits them well.
Yeah, I like it a lot, it's great, but I don't know how to backside this thing, but good luck managing it all, plugging it in the bill, right to the person. The $10 credit for 8 hours doesn't seem all that interesting, so I don't know what the number works for.
Yeah.
But, you know, just curious, but it is an interesting way to try to get people out of their houses and aware of the water and land around them, so. And opens it up to pretty much everything. Yeah, it really does.
And related to the administration, that's what this applicable information added to the form. So, currently, you know, you have to fill out a waiver and stuff, and it's an online form. And we imagine adding, you know, a couple of lines like, what is your account number where you want your applied to, so that it's kind of done in a fashion that can easily be integrated with kind of existing tracking type
But if I were to go to an event at Walnut Creek and I heard about it, and I went down on a Saturday morning, and I'm like, okay, do they have a win? Is it all like? Should I have signed up beforehand? And if I didn't, are there iPads there? So then they can be tracked appropriately, right? So then I don't have to add the access to the system to do it.
I think if it's a city organized event, then with city representatives there, then that would be available. But if it's, you know, an individually organized event, you know, somebody comes in and kind of picks up, you know, the city of Raleigh provides supplies for it. So somebody comes in and picks up the supplies, and then, you know, kind of after the cleanup is completed, you know, the city goes out and collects all the stuff to properly dispose of it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm imagining that, you know, there'd have to be a way for somebody to either fill it out retroactively or something.
Definitely thanks some of that.
Yeah.
Nuances to work out. We did work very closely with Joyce and with not much additional information to our current process and form, we can give exactly what the things like that. Hey, there's someone learns about it and, you know, walks in and wants to participate. Wonderful. We encourage that, but a way to make sure that they can apply for the credit as well. So definitely something that take into account.
Another great idea. Envision a lot more participation in these roof keeper activities.
We like to be in super, yeah, it's very beneficial.
Yeah, and I'll just say a little bit about the Raleigh Water UCAP program. Currently, that is funded kind of two main sources. They do, you know, leasing of land for cell towers. Revenue from that is used to fund the UCAP, as well as the general fund. You know, they are not allowed to use a rate revenue to fund that. So the funding has to come from other sources, and potentially this could be an additional funding source. All right, so I have a couple of examples. We got 12 minutes left. I think, you know, I think we really wanted to show some examples of how the stacking might work. So this is just a commercial property. This is what it might be. Like I said, these are just examples. Please don't, you know, look at the real dollar amounts or anything like that. But, you know, currently, you know, say they have bioretention and underground detention, a combination of those two. You know, currently, maybe they're only getting 20% of a credit, but maybe that same combination of control structures gives them 20% on peak, 10% on volume, 15% on water quality. All of a sudden now they're up to 45% on their credit. So that's kind of how a more simple example of the stacking might work. We also have a school example. Maybe they put in a rain garden funded through R3. And maybe then they also have some underground detention structure, and then they also do some education. You know, total, I think This gets them up above 50%. We cap it out at 50%. So they're paying, half as much as what they were paying before, whereas maybe, I didn't pull this in, but currently, maybe they're only getting 20% for just this underground detention structure. Because, their R3 project isn't eligible, education isn't a credit that exists yet. So, they would not be getting as much of a reduction under the current framework. But now all of a sudden they are actually getting over 50%, but we cap it up to 50%.
But that underground detention, I just want to make sure, that would have to be over and above the required.
Yeah, over and above, yeah, of course.
Trying to figure out how to. That's what they were in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Super point. These are both hypothetical, but yeah, to get the current credit 20%. And to Ben's point, that would have be to control at least a 25-year event, and the 25-year not being a zoning condition associated with the development. So yeah, that 20% currently would be pretty difficult to achieve, but another, we haven't pointed out directly in the presentation, but existing impervious area, there are no requirements for treating or controlling. So we really want to amplify that anything done to treat existing impervious, which is not required, would be eligible for credit straight away. So we really want to, encourage that as part of this program as well as encouraging, devices that do go above and beyond the requirements.
And that's what I see in most of the benefit of this. If somebody's got building something and they have to do stormwater management for that new addition or whatever it is, and they make it a little bit bigger to control some of the existing impervious, they may be able to get credit. Then the devil's in the details, how much credit do they get for how much treating of existing impervious? But that's something you guys kind of have to sort out.
Exactly.
That way you're not spending a tremendous amount of money to do a BMP. If you already got to do it, make it a little bigger. It's not that big an increase.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so next step, Scott kind of talked a little bit about, some of them at the beginning. Like I said, we were talking about the education credit. We kind of have some school representatives that we want to talk to kind of float the education credit idea by them, see what they think, and kind of get their feedback on how that could really be, work for them and how we could structure it so that it would be overly burdensome for them or city of Raleigh, of course. Kind of incorporate the feedback that we heard today. We've got to go back and kind of finalize some of the credit percentages. We're certainly coming back to you with this. This isn't the last time you're going to hear about credits. We'll have to draft the update to the fee credit manual. Certainly, as we said, we got to develop a communication strategy around it. So to kind of raise awareness about the program and to let people know that these new opportunities exist. And as Scott said, it would have to be approved by city council. So that's kind of, some of them are more near term and some of them are a little bit longer term. And Scott and I were just talking before this, we might even do a couple more workshops and stuff like this to really kind of try to put a bow on what this newly imagined credit program might be.
Exactly. And before going to city council, we receive SMAC's recommendations and support before that will be ready for council. So thank you all. We're excited about this. I think we're just right on our schedule. Was there anything that you heard that you have concerns about, or maybe are excited about, or does everything look like it's on track? I mean, again, we're going to be back to you probably several more times before this is finalized over the next coming months. So this is, you'll hear a lot more about it, but did anything stand out as something that we might not want to do, or something that we want to, do we miss something that we might want to consider?
Positive about everything I saw, especially the fact that, expanding it beyond the commercial stuff is always that hard part about the equity issue there, where, residential people can't get any credit, commercial could. I think for people like churches and stuff, that's great. I think it's great for the school system because they need to find a way to cut their costs too. So I said the downside is going to be the administration of the program and keeping that with that. And, the loss of revenue at the same time, kind of cut your own throats. With more work and get less revenue.
Great feedback. Yeah, we really want to increase participation for creditworthy activities. You know, grow the engagement, all these things we've talked about, the benefits, but also be fiscally sound as well.
I think it's great. What's the income from the stormwater fee? And
Yes, Javier, roughly 33.5 million. Is that about right?
Correct.
Okay, so about 95% of our total revenue comes from the stormwater utility fee, to which we're talking about a credit program for that. So it's very significant.
And what, these four groups that get 85%, what is that revenue that is not realized?
That in total, it's about 400,
$400,000.
just under 400,000.
1%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just under 400,000 annually. Reduction from the 33.5 or plus or minus millions. Yeah, great questions. Very good. Thank you, Commission. We'll bring this back to you several times, and we appreciate the feedback. Thank you,
Yeah,
Debbie.
thanks, guys.
Oh, the last, thing on the agenda is our vote on meeting options. I don't know if Matthew's gonna put up a slide. There was the last slide, the last, page in your packet gave 3 recommendations. The city's office for community engagement has requested that all commissions vote on how they would prefer to meet going forward. 3 recommended actions. One is in person with no change. Second, in person with streaming, which I think is how we currently do it.
Current,
Yeah.
yes.
And then the third is virtual platform streaming. Email public comment and voicemail public comment as options. Did everybody have a chance to at least see this in your meeting material? I think it was staff's recommendation, but perhaps opinion that what we do now is fine. And I'm curious what the commissioners think. If they have a preference for options. And once we vote, this sticks for the rest of 23. If we want to revisit next year, perhaps that's an option, but it's no flip flop. I didn't agree with this first time. That's it. Okay.
Since it doesn't affect me, I think what you're doing is just.
Okay. All right.
You'll be sending a public comment next month, and even if you want to stream that, no.
All right, then may I have a motion that we continue with in-person with streaming for our meeting? All right, and the second. All right, very second. All in favor? All right, no opposition. Anything else? Then may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mark.
It makes a mess.
David, second. All in favor? No opposition. Meeting is adjourned.